It's Tuesday. That means it's time for coffee and cursey words. Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. It's so good to see you. Yes, it is time. I have a Ponard hiding here trying to knock over my drinks. I have like a plethora of drinks, but he wants to get to the window that's hiding behind the drinks. So that's what's going on over here. So good to see everyone. We have lots to talk about today. Replay crew, love you. There will be timestamps down below when I am done streaming and put them in. So it will take a minute till the end of stream, but it will be there. Today we are going to touch on the Gabby Petito investigation very briefly. I'm not going to cover it in depth. There's lots of news coverage in it. Her family is going through the unimaginable, so we're going to just touch on some of the what happens next practical law enforcement sides from a former prosecutor, and then we are all going to send love, prayers, and wishes to her family for strength during this awful and unimaginable time. We are going to talk a bit about the Sharelle World John Yates lawsuit. They were co-defendants in a suit. There's some big updates on that. Then Cesar Millan in a dog bite case. Then the Queen's Gambit and Netflix. We're going to kind of court of public opinion that. I can't wait to see what you think about this lawsuit because there's a lot there. Vipe, good to see you this morning, man. Love you too. Can't wait to be in LA with you next week. Speaking of which, next week there will not be a coffee and cursey words because I will be in LA to speak at Vid Summit, but I will be streaming from something, probably my iPad. I got a new microphone to work with my iPad, so I'll be streaming from my iPad on Wednesday at some point because there will be that massive Britney Spears hearing that I will want to cover. So we will be doing that too. All right, you guys, it's time. Let's get into it. I mean, my hair, Sarah, has gotten insane. I'm getting my hair done this week. We got to have fresh purple for speaking on stages since it's been a while since we've done that, but it needs a little trimmy trim. It's just like, what? This hair, I don't think my hair's ever been this long. So good evening, UK. I also loved the Queen's Gambit. I binge watched it. I thought it was great. So we're going from heavier to lighter today. So we can all just be like, we can deal with the heavier and then we can move to the lighter. And I'll talk a little bit about why I don't go live and cover cases like this, like every single breaking thing, just from my own personal decision and for, for the respect of these investigations, the families going through them. Like, it's hard and it's not real life true crime like playing out, even though it is, but it's a lot. So we're going to talk about that real quick. So let's get into it. Lawnards, I appreciate you for being lovely, for not name calling, wishing ill on anyone and all of that, because especially when we get to the Gabby Petito stuff, not so much with the rest of it, it's really hard to not have strong feelings and just want to scream them from the rooftop. I get it. I get it. Your feelings are yours and you are entitled to them. But we try to keep the chat to the facts and not fuckery. People are spying. There are some things in the background. Yes, maybe. It's a tester for something that is coming to the Lawnard shop. So yep. Let's get into it. Hey there. If we haven't met yet, I'm Emily D. Baker, the badass lawyer and everyone's favorite legal commentator. I'm the host of The Emily Show, and I break down the legal shit behind the news and pop culture stories we all want to talk about. I have been a licensed attorney for over 15 years, but this is not legal advice. I should warn you, I'm a big fan of the cursey words. This channel is where the law nerds unite to talk about facts, not fuckery. All right, y'all. So the first story we're going to talk about today, and I am keeping notes because tech is working. So I am keeping notes for the timestamps today. Normally it is Tech Valor who had a birthday yesterday. We will celebrate again on Friday when she is live in the chat, but I am keeping notes. So let's talk about our quick bits for the week. We just have a few little stories in quick bits because I want to leave room for questions today, y'all. I really do. It's been a while since we've gotten to get to questions, and I think conversation is one of the most important things about law. So quick bits. First, we're talking about the Gabby Petito investigation. I wanted to share a little bit about why I do not cover this and cases like it top to bottom, every single thing that comes out. Some of the lawsuits that I cover, I absolutely cover that way. And it's like, oh, there's a new filing in the Britney case. Oh, there's a new filing in the Toddy case. Things that we're covering that are playing out in court. When it comes to active investigations and missing persons, I have seen what that's like for families to go through based on my own personal experiences. And it is horrible. It is horrible to watch these things be picked apart online. And I don't want to contribute to picking it apart. And for me, it's always a balance of awareness and talking about the facts of what's going on and not contributing to the noise and speculation and almost gamification of something that's happening in real time to real families. And it's different when you're covering cases that are 20 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old, and covering how the investigations went down and breaking them down kind of in hindsight. But when they are live and still unfolding, there is so much unknown. I just don't want to I don't want to contribute in a negative way, and I always try to balance what that means for me. I also find a lot of these cases very, very difficult because they just bring back a lot of not just personal experiences, but the work that I've done myself. And it's not helpful to come out and just be like, "Bleh, these are my feelings on everyone." Like, that's not helpful to anyone, to you as an audience, or to me as a creator. Though it can drive views and clicks, that's not the point of my channel. The point of my channel and the point of my content is to be informative, to have fact-based conversations, and that's hard to do when the facts are still not all in. It's also I've always seen my channel as a resource to help. And if there's not anything I can do to help, then there is not anything I can do but process it for me and then share how I'm processing that for me. We talked a little bit about that on Friday, about the things that you might do when you are traveling so that it's easier for people to know if something has happened, the way that you stay in communication and things like that. So I just wanted to let you guys know kind of where I'm at and why, because yes, I have a criminal background, but yes, also that can be very heavy to process in real time based on not just work experience, but personal experience. So with that, Gabby Petito, or a an just a body was recovered that matches her description and identification. Her family was notified. The FBI sent their condolences, which means they cannot give 100% because they are doing the autopsy today, but they also sent their condolences to her family and let her family know. And so that indicates to me that they are confident that they recovered Gabby Petito, unfortunately. But on the unfortunate side of that, from the family side of that, they have at least the first answer to many questions that they are going to have in the weeks, months, and potentially years to come. There is an autopsy today. What that means, and I have been present at autopsies, it's not a pleasant thing by any means to witness. I imagine for the doctors doing it, it becomes very workmanlike because that is what they choose to do. It's a very scientific endeavor. For me as a DA, it was unsettling to watch autopsies be done. Interesting at times, but unsettling. So that is being done. I bring up the autopsy because with the autopsy, coroners will determine things in several ways, and we might not get an autopsy report immediately. So know that just because an autopsy is being done, things might be run and take time down the road for an autopsy to come in. Coroners tend to respond to things, calling them either an accidental death, and you can see that in things like falls where somebody gets injured. You can see that in things like accidental overdoses, stuff like that. You can also see things like homicide determinations by an autopsy. And I wanted to make sure that we understood the difference, because a homicide determination in an autopsy and a homicide in a criminal sense are two slightly different things. And with regard to a determination from a coroner, it means at the hands of another. It's not a charge. It's not a prosecution. It doesn't mean someone's been identified. It just means at the hands of another person. And then there are, of course, our natural causes of death, heart attack, strokes, things like that. So we probably won't see a report on that today. I imagine that will take some time. What we also saw is a search warrant get shared by reporter Brian Enton. His Twitter, I will link below. He has been like at the neighbor's house on the scene. So if you want to watch the coverage top to bottom on this, he is one of the reporters that is on the ground covering this top to bottom. He shared the search warrant a bit, and other search warrants have since been executed. I just wanted to touch on the one that was shared on Twitter. The search warrant that was shared, they were looking for a very specific hard drive, and they got a search warrant for a very specific hard drive. That search warrant gave us some information because there is a search warrant affidavit. The affidavit part of a search warrant is the part that tells the judge, hey, this is why we have reasonable belief that probable cause to search the thing we're asking you to search. And we need a search warrant because we are searching something that we can't just see or just look at from the street and go, oh, I see that thing. So you need a search warrant. This search warrant came out of a search of the van that Gabby and her fiance were traveling in. They found a hard drive inside of the van when they were searching the van. They had a search warrant for the van. They didn't have a search warrant to search the hard drive. Hard drives contain lots of different types of evidence, or potential different types of evidence. So they wanted to make sure that they got a search warrant for that hard drive. So that's what we saw shared on Twitter. The search warrant was to be served within 10 days of the 15th of September. As I said here today, it's the 21st of September. The search warrant return was done the next day, meaning, hey, we got the thing, we're searching it. Here's the return showing that we got the thing. And they are searching that external hard drive for whatever they might find. That could include metadata of photos and things like that. The reason there was exigency in that search warrant is because they were still trying to locate Gabby Petito. So this was served and returned before she was found. They stated things in the search warrant return that were different than things that had been stated previously on social media. The search warrant returned indicated that the van's license plate was picked up on an ALPR around September 1st. ALPR might be my language. I don't know if that's the exact language in it, but the automatic license plate reader. They have these on like traffic lights, sometimes traffic signs, and they are they are just those little long boxes, and they automatically read license plates as they come in. So when they're looking for a vehicle, they can put out literally APBs on vehicles and get the license plate and see if that license plate has hit any ALPRs and been registered in the system. So that came back as coming into the Florida area that the Brian Laundrie's family's in on September 1st at 10:26 a.m. So that gave a little more of a timeline. They talked about the fact that the family refused to speak with law enforcement, refused to let Brian speak with law enforcement. Of course, we know that this was all before he went missing / is on the run / is hiding from law enforcement, depending on how you see things. I think missing and or on the run are synonymous in this case, based on my personal opinion. So they recovered the hard drive, and I'm sure that has, YouTube footage on it and things like that, knowing the work that Gabby was doing. And they indicated that her mother talked about the last text message. I was disappointed that this was shared with the phone number in it. The search warrant on social media is not redacted. So I just ask that everyone, and I'm sure it's not the law nerds that go around and act wild, but don't use the information in the search warrant to ring people up. It's not, when you're trying to find your kid, I can't imagine also having all of social media scrutiny on you, also then having your phone number in a search warrant that is then made public. I think that was, I think that's really tough. So same with the addresses where things are located. I think that's also kind of tough and could have been redacted. But again, it's hard when they're public records because anybody can just go pull them up. But we're law nerds and we're respectful of people's privacy. So, What else? So the mom stated that that last text message was 8:27 and that it was odd, and then her phone was turned off and all of her social media posting stopped. So we know that she was found on Sunday. This is an ongoing investigation. This will continue to be an ongoing investigation. They will, whatever they uncover from the autopsy will eventually be made public. They will continue looking for Brian Landry, who is still a person of interest. That has not changed. If it does change, law enforcement, I'm sure, will release a press statement. But until then, this is a ongoing investigation that is not going to have fast answers, I'm sure. And somewhat, I mean, it's not really a manhunt. They are still treating it as a missing person as to Brian Laundrie, but there are lots of questions around that, of course, but we just don't know, and we won't know for a little bit. So all the best that we can do as members of the public is talk about the fact that Brian Laundrie is still out there and still being looked for, make sure that people know his face. Social media is an amazing tool for that, to make sure that information is spread far and wide. I know that social media is part of what assisted the FBI in finding where Gabby was, and that's a really incredible thing. So there's the good and bad of it, right? There's the dissecting of it and gamifying of it, and then there's the actual help of people who might see Brian Landry and recognize him from TikTok or from social media or from YouTube, and that I find to be very helpful for law enforcement to get those tips. So it's a see something, say something, but also don't troll the internet, because it's no time for trolling. The whole thing is tremendously sad. It makes me sad. So I'm sad. I'm sure you can tell. You guys are like, Emily, you okay? No, I'm sad. This makes me really fucking sad. So yeah, that's what it is. Really, really sad. So in looking at this case, there are lots of other threads on Twitter of other missing persons whose cases have not been brought to light as much. I'm going to share one of them with you, and there are others. So if you are on social media looking at this, just know that this is a horrible situation, but it is not, unfortunately, a unique situation. There are lots of other open cases of missing persons. Including Daniel Robinson. So I'm gonna share a Yahoo News article about him real quick. As of course, who has screen sharing on before they go live? Like I'm speaking at a conference in a week about live streaming. Sure. And they're gonna be like, Emily, you're a professional. Yep, I am. So Daniel Robinson has been missing for quite a substantial amount of time. He is a geologist. He was last seen on June 23rd in Arizona in the desert, returning home from work. His vehicle was found. He was not found. There are still lots of questions about this case. There are things in this case that seem highly unusual, and his father is seemingly getting stonewalled by police, and it is just tragic and sad. I can't imagine not feeling like law enforcement is on your side when you are trying to find your child. I would be so frustrated and so angry. So not just is Daniel Robinson missing, but there are others that are still missing. So if you've watched this case and gone, this is heartbreaking, it is. And the Gabby investigation will, of course, continue. Her family will be dealing with this for the rest of their lives, but there are many others who have not yet been found. So if you are looking on social media, it's fine to spend some time sharing some of these other stories to social media as well, and bringing the attention that the Petito case got, to hope that the public might remember something, might have seen something, and can then say something that might help these cases move forward too. Because again, this is now months gone by, and they have hired a private investigator to try to dig into this. Their family has started a GoFundMe, and that's all in this link. So I'm going to put the link in the chat so that if you want to go look at the GoFundMe or look more into this story, you can. Because when your kid is driving home from work, you don't expect them to not make it back to their house, right? So we are going to move on to kind of lighter topics, but I just wanted to share, while we are talking about sharing the Gabby Petito story, that Gabby is not the only person who is missing, and that there are others, and we can get the public eye on those as well. And as a content creator, if I can help bring awareness to that and help bring some I don't know, not just awareness, but a conversation of facts around this that yes, the public can help in keeping eyes out, in sharing stories, in asking for answers, in helping families feel like they're not alone in their fight, but also digging into every single detail with theories and fuckery, not facts, is also not helpful. So gamification, no. See something, say something, yes, if that helps. Um, I saw a lot of people asking about the role of kind of attorneys in this and the role of defense attorneys in this. Look, Brian Landry, as hard as it is to wrap your head around, is not a suspect in this case. He is considered a missing person. He has a right to remain silent. As frustrating as it is, law enforcement can't just arrest him for nothing and force him to say things. That's exactly what our system was built to prevent from happening. If he had a role in what has happened to Gabby Petito and in her death, I am confident that there will be something that will trigger that for law enforcement. It just might not be fast. So he's allowed to remain silent. His family's allowed to remain silent. If his family hindered an investigation, if he becomes a suspect, if he becomes a defendant and his family harbored him, helped him flee, hid evidence, then his family can also get into trouble. So that will be down the line, and we won't really have answers to a lot of the questions for a little bit. So that's just what it is, and it is very frustrating. But remember, when I say legality, morality, a lot of you are like, but I would never do that. It's like, well, I get it, but he chose to do that and he has the right to, and that's kind of frustrating, and I understand it. I feel that the public is frustrated, but nothing compared to Gabby Petito's family and the betrayal they feel as the person they thought was going to marry their daughter remained silent while they were looking for her. So that is kind of the betrayal that I have focused on, because nothing that I feel in my own frustration of, like, I was a former prosecutor, so it's like, yeah, go ahead and talk. But also as an individual, I'm like, no, no, no. What he's doing is putting himself in a better position. And for her family, that is going to be tremendously devastating. So as we move on from that, thank you all for being amazing law nerds, for being respectful, and for talking about facts. Mother Oates said exactly what I'm thinking. Don't leave home without an AirTag. I mean, they're in my kids' backpacks. I'm just saying, the Apple AirTags are in all of our family stuff and in our hiking gear. We also have quite a lot in our hiking gear, probably more than we need for the limited level of hiking that we do. We have emergency contact phones and things like that, but I worked in law enforcement and I get nervous about things. I am the person who, when my kids were at the park when I was young, if somebody was like parked in their car, there were times when I went and knocked on somebody's window and they're like, no, I'm just here eating lunch. I'm like, you've just been parked here in your car for like 20 minutes at the park where there's kids playing, and I just wanted to come and like look at your face. So yeah, working as a DA will do that to you. So let's all just take it. We're all going to just take a deep breath and move on to other things and send our energy to hoping that there are answers in this case to come. But we're going to move on to Sharelle's world. Are we all ready? Let's just take a deep breath, get some coffee. Remember the Sharelle's world lawsuit? This was probably my least favorite lawsuit before the Triller suit happened. This is the most Triller suit other than the Triller suit. There are some that are not quite as Trillery, but this one was so badly written, I screamed the entire time I read it and hated it so much. And we're going to do a quick road so far, and then we're going to talk about the resolution, because this case is officially over. So let us talk about our next quick bit. The Sharelle's World lawsuit. Sharelle's World and John Yates were sued as co-defendants. I'm just going to pull up the court's. The court's OSC doesn't have all the. Of course it doesn't. The court's OSC doesn't have all of the defendants and plaintiffs listed. All right, I'm going to have to pull up the whole thing. Just give me. This lawsuit was filed months ago. We covered the initial filing, and the initial filing was so bad that it both gave me a rage-induced headache and made me yell out loud all of the time. I hated it the most. I had no idea what they were talking about. It was so poorly written. And I normally will not just flambe another attorney. Yeah, I will pick on a typo here and there because they're funny. Everyone makes mistakes. This was not mistakes. This was Trillery level bullshit, and I hated it the most. This is Amber Charrington, Andrew Kenton, Young One University LLC, Amanda Grace Crosby, Janelle Evans Eason, Jennifer Kosher Richardson, Fritz Drexler, Joseph C. Alamia PLLC, Joseph C. Alamia, Jane and John Doe's 1 through 20. I don't know why you don't know who your plaintiffs are, but whatever. Versus John Yates, Sharelle Lloyd, Sharelle's World LLC, William Lloyd, aka Perry Sanders, and John and Jane Doe's 1 through 20. This was like everybody suing everyone for everything, and it didn't make any fucking sense at all. I brought up issues with potential jurisdiction. They said, people were resident of Salt Lake County, resident of California, resident of California. Well, you have multiple residents of California. You already don't have diversity. This was a problem from the very beginning. And then when you look at the diversity between the plaintiffs and the defendants, you've got multiple defendants in Nevada. You've got, plaintiffs all over the place. It was just an absolute mess. I hated it the most. I couldn't even figure out what facts went to what things. I was so mad. The whole thing, I made comments about the jurisdiction. I don't understand how they had jurisdiction. And the lawyers for both Sharelle's World and John Yates filed a variety of motions. Ultimately, the court took this into their own hands and said, yeah, no, what we're not going to do is whatever the fuck this is. And I hate it the most. So yay for the court. We love a judge that's just like, nope. We're taking this one by the horns. It was just like the original Triller case where the judge is like, I'm sorry, what is this? Because these are misjoined. This is a mess. There are no facts. Counsel, what the fuck are you doing? With all due respect and peace and love. And that's essentially what the court did here too. The judge filed on their own motion, it seems, an OSC. Now, this is probably triggered by the motions from Sharelle's World and John Yates. John Yates filed a motion for dismiss. Sharelle's World filed a motion for like a more clear statement of jurisdiction. And the court was like, okay, here's the thing. I don't want to go through all of that. We're not going to do like you file a motion and then you object and you respond. I am going to ask the plaintiffs to explain how the fuck this is going to work. And that's exactly what the court did here. Plaintiffs initiated this action on May 18th, asserting this court has diversity subject matter jurisdiction. However, plaintiffs failed to sufficiently allege the citizenship of any of the parties. And the court in turn cannot evaluate whether it enjoys the requisite subject matter jurisdiction. Hey, I don't think I have jurisdiction. Can you explain to me why you think I have jurisdiction? Therefore, as discussed in more detail below, plaintiffs are ordered to show cause why the complaint should not be dismissed for lack of subject matter jurisdiction. We learned this like the first day of law school at Harvard Law with Elle Woods. Miss Kensington, did diversity jurisdiction exist in this case? No, it did not. Like we learn about like literally not just in actual law school, but in movie law school, we learn about how important jurisdiction is because it's one of the first things they talk about. Jurisdiction is something that's always going to be fought over. The court has a continuing obligation to ensure it maintains subject matter jurisdiction throughout a dispute. And the court cites like, law and shit. For this court to exercise subject matter jurisdiction, there must be complete diversity between opposing sides. No plaintiff may be a citizen of the same state as any defendant. The court notes that in class actions in which the amount of controversy is greater than 5 million, this rule is relaxed to a minimal diversity requirement jurisdiction because in class actions, you can have hundreds of plaintiffs and one of them might reside in the same state as a defendant, etc. While plaintiffs make some class-related allegations under FRCP 23, they do not include a prayer for relief involving a proposed class action. This is not a class action. Moreover, the amount in controversy is $75,000, not the requisite $5 million. Therefore, the minimal requirements are inapplicable. Please explain to me how you think you have jurisdiction. And the court goes on to say, please explain who owns these LLCs, where the people that own the LLCs live, how you think you have jurisdiction here, and why you think there is complete diversity. The response just didn't fly. I'm going to go through the response real quickly because, the court's already answered this. But we'll just go through the attempt in the trilleriness of it all. Jurisdiction. This is the response to the OSC. Now, this is the court literally pulling you in and saying, explain to me how the fuck we get here. I need to know. And if they're saying, look, I need to know with regard to this one thing, then what would you think your motion should focus on? That one fucking thing. Just the one. And that's what they've done here. Jurisdiction. The court has subject matter jurisdiction over this action as the actions between citizens of a state and citizens or subjects of a foreign state, and the amount in controversy of this action exceeds $75,000. This is the response to the OSC. And I keep scrolling up because I keep looking for them mistaking that this is a response to something else. But it's just not. The entire OSC filed by the court is 5 pages of the court laying out the issues. The court says in their own motion that this is the rule. And these are my questions. Plaintiffs in their complaint do not allege the citizenship of the named plaintiffs and named defendants. Where are they domiciled? Where do they live? What is their permanent home? In alleging the citizenship of each named plaintiff and defendant, the complaint states each is, quote, a resident of state. However, as discussed supra, the citizenship of persons is determined by domicile. How much did we talk about domicile in the Toddy Westbrook lawsuit? Are you all sick of the word domicile? Yep. Same. So they have not talked about where people are domiciled, the state in which each person resides and intends to remain. They give the law for domicile for their jurisdiction. The court infers named plaintiffs and defendants are citizens for purposes of 1332 in the states in which the complaint alleges they are residents or have lived for 90 days. However, if any named plaintiff or defendant resides with an intent to remain in a different state than one alleged, then plaintiff must so indicate the accurate citizenship of that party. The court is telling them what the issue is. Here is our issue. Also, you don't allege the citizenship of the John and Jane Does. If a John and Jane Doe lives here and a defendant lives there, then they could ruin jurisdiction. And we saw this in the John and Jane Does alleged in the Toddy Westbrook case, with the allegation that none of those John and Jane Does lived in the state of Washington. Then they get into the issue of alleging where the LLC owners live and where the PLLC owners live. So the court lays out in 5 pages, hey, answer me this, riddle me that, answer me this, riddle me that. And the response that came through is literally, but I already said it, Your Honor. But I said that. But I said it. But I already said it. They just restated the same conclusion because they don't know. Like, what? General allegations. And then they go on to the argument about defamation per se, which is not what the court asked you to do. Look, this is like your mom asking you to unload the dishwasher, and days later you come back and are like, but I cleaned my room. Why aren't you happy? Be happy with what I gave you. Then they talk about false light. This is just a waste of paper and filing fees. Conversion. Do you know what this doesn't talk about? This is 13 pages. And you know what it doesn't talk about? What it doesn't talk about is jurisdiction. Sure doesn't. Sure doesn't. Sure doesn't. The court asked you to address one issue and you address it in 4 sentences, or maybe it's more. It's not lined, so I don't know. So this was filed on September 16th. The court responded. The court responded in very short order. When there's an order to show cause and you fail to show cause, the court is going to have an opinion about it. So the court dismissed the case on September 20th. The court was like, no, yeet. The court has yoded this case right out of court. Plaintiffs initiated this action on May 18th, 2021, asserting this court has diversity subject matter jurisdiction. In the complaint, plaintiffs failed to sufficiently allege the citizenship of any of the parties. The court could not evaluate whether it had the requisite subject matter jurisdiction over the case. We're just going to go with SMJ. Accordingly, the court issued an OSC, order to show cause, September 2nd, 2021, identifying the specific deficiencies. Oh, yes, Your Honor, what you did do is specifically identify the deficiencies, and not only specifically identified the deficiencies, but like spelled out the law on each of them. Like, I need you to tell me this, please. Identifying the specific deficiencies in the citizenship allegations concerning the individual parties, the DOE parties, and the limited liability company parties. The court directed plaintiff to demonstrate why the action should not be dismissed for lack of SMJ. Plaintiffs, in their recently filed memorandum of response, failed to engage. Failed to engage with any of the legal requirements cited by the court in the OSC necessary to establish subject matter jurisdiction. Plaintiffs have, therefore, failed to establish such jurisdiction. As a result, the complaint is dismissed without prejudice. That means it can be refiled. I don't know if they would waste the time and the money to do it. I would be surprised if they did. This should be a warning that trying to file this case here is not going to work. This case should have been filed from plaintiffs to each defendant. These defendants were also improperly joined. I think some of the plaintiffs were improperly joined. Like, this is just, this whole filing was a mess. Like, from the get-go, it was a mess. And then the court entered judgment. So, it is hereby ordered and adjudicated, adjudged. It is hereby ordered and adjudged that judgment is entered in favor of plaintiffs, reading's hard today, in favor of defendants due to plaintiff's failure to establish subject matter jurisdiction. So ordered this 20th day of September, 2021. So that is what happened. Both John Yates and Sharelle let me know that this had been dismissed. Both were very complimentary of the work that their attorneys did. Sharelle switched lawyers in the middle and ended up with Saltz representing her or taking on her case at the end. He never had to appear in court because the court ordered the OSC. Both asked for the case to be dismissed in different ways. The court looked, I think speculation. I think the court looked at all the dismissals and went, the fastest route to getting this the fuck out of my courtroom is looking at jurisdiction. Oh, there isn't any. Plaintiff, please tell me why. Tell me why. Backstreet Boys moment in my head. Tell me why. Anyway, the court wanted to know why. The answer was, so the court dismissed it. So that is the end of one of the worst lawsuits I have ever read. Yep. What a mess. So now we'll see if they file for malicious prosecution. I don't think they will. If I were the defendants, I would just let this one go. Hopefully they didn't spend too much money, because the court actually saved the defendants quite a bit of cost in this case by not making them continue to argue the motions on their own motions to dismiss. If they had continued down that road, it would have been a motion, an opposition, a reply. There would have been a lot more litigation. The court kind of cut that off at the quick and just said, no, here's the OSC. I want a motion to restate, which is the first thing Sharelle asked for. And then John Yates' attorneys came in and asked for a motion to dismiss on a bunch of different grounds. So, yeah, the the court at the end of the day, Salty tweeted responsibility for success yesterday. I mean, I think at the end of the day, the court's responsible for the success. I think um, both defendants asked for this to be dismissed in different ways, but each defendant can only really dismiss something unto themselves. They didn't join in motions. So John Yates was defending on his own stuff. Sharelle was defending on her own stuff. Both of them pointed out to the court, hey, this sucks. But the court also has eyes and can see that. And you get that with that OSC, with a judge saying, we're not fucking with it. Like, no, I don't fuck with you. Now I want to sing Cardi B. If I don't say your name, it's because I don't fuck with you. Anyway, that's who I want to be. Anyway, see, singing lightens the mood. We just lighten the mood. Me trying to rap Bodak Yellow is not going to go well for anyone. So we're just going to move the fuck on from that. So what should we talk about next? Cesar Millan or the Queen's Gambit? 1 in the chat for Cesar Millan, 2 in the chat for Queen's Gambit. Let me know what story you want to hear next. And then we will get to questions. Narco ASA, I'm so glad this ridiculous case was dismissed. Samesies. And it actually did it in a way that saved the defendants quite a bit of money. Oh, I should have done a poll. 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. Oh, 1, 2, 1, 2. There, y'all, this is a lot of 1s and 2s. 1, 1, 1. I'm seeing more 1s than 2s. Maybe it's just my eyes. All right. We're going to do Cesar Millan first, and then we're going to do Queen's Gambit. And then we're going to go to questions, and we're going to leave plenty of time for those. And then I have a Zoom call with YouTube, which I'm very excited to have a conversation with YouTube about some of their safety features. I'm very excited to participate in chatting with them about creator safety and stuff. So very happy to be doing that. So, all right. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right. We are going to talk about the Queen's Gambit cleaning up at the Emmys, and I do want to hear your thoughts on it. All right. Let us talk about Cesar Millan. It is, let's see, we're going to be at 42 minutes. We're just going to timestamp it there. Look, replay crew, I love you. We're doing the best we can. Let's like swoop on into that. Did y'all see the headlines about Cesar Millan getting sued? How many of you thought he was getting sued over something to do with Queen Latifah's dog? Go ahead and put a, I don't know what to put a me in the chat if you thought that this Cesar Millan lawsuit had to do with Queen Latifah's dog, because the media reporting on this made a lot out of something between one of Cesar Millan's dogs and something with regard to one of Queen Latifah's dogs, and one of Queen Latifah's dogs allegedly being killed by one of Cesar Millan's dogs. And that's how the headlines looked for a lot of people. So a lot of you are like me. Yeah, and some of you are like, no, I read it. No, I know. But a lot of the media reporting on this, if you just heard about this case in passing, you thought that this was over Queen Latifah's dog, and it is not. This is a dog bite case. And in California, there is strict liability for an owner of a dog who bites someone. So this is a dog bite case over one of his employees' daughters as a minor getting bitten by the dog. Now, this is not the only suit he's facing. There's also a suit over licensing of dog food that we're not going to get into today, but there are other suits going on. The motion to dismiss in this case was recently denied, and an answer has been filed indicating that they might be suing on counterclaims. But let's talk about the first amended complaint. I'm not pulling up the other complaint because it's not operable anymore. And this is the FAQ. The first amended complaint with regard to the minor, now adult, who was injured by or alleged to be injured by one of Cesar Millan's dogs. Look, by way of a disclaimer, there are things in this lawsuit I don't agree with. They talk a lot about the pit bull breed of dogs. This is a highly controversial topic. Look, I am a cat woman. I love my cats, but I have lots of dog friends. The breed disparities and some breeds being violent, some breeds not being violent is highly controversial. There are statements made about breeds in this case that you all aren't going to agree with. Look, these are allegations. Let's just not. We're not going to discriminate against dog breeds up in here, just like we don't discriminate against people up in here. But it is a controversial issue. I'm just acknowledging that fact as we move into this lawsuit. So let us talk about this lawsuit and the allegations here against Cesar Millan. And that Cesar Millan's lawyers make a lot of a point about saying that Cesar Millan's name is spelled wrong in the complaint. Look, yes, his name is spelled with 2 L's. Yes, it should be fixed. They are suing him individually as a person, and they are suing him as a company for strict liability, assault and battery, negligence, negligent hiring, training, supervision, premises liability, meaning it happened at your place, and IIED, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Don't we know quite a lot about IIED at this point? Nature of the action, Cesar Millan. See, it's spelled right there. It's just typoed up here, and they make in the complaint, it's like improperly sued as. They should just amend the complaint and fix it because it's spelled right the rest of here. And it just complains against defendant Cesar Millan, who was erroneously named as Cesar Millan. I don't know why they didn't change it up here, but they've fixed it here. It's really not that big of a deal. Everyone knows who they mean. Cesar Millan, world famous dog trainer and star of the television show Dog Whisperer with Cesar Millan, knew that his pit bull Junior had a history of violence and had attacked both humans and other dogs. On one occasion, Queen Latifah left her dog to be trained with Mr. Millan. Junior, they allege, killed Queen Latifah's dog. So that happened. Look, Queen Latifah's never spoken about this. I don't know the veracity of this. This is alleged here. We don't know. The media kind of ran with the name. They're using it to show, not just in California, you don't have to show that anyone knew that a dog had propensity, because there's strict liability. If a dog bites someone, the owner can be legally responsible for it in the state of California. So you don't have to show, oh, the dog bit somebody else and they know, and you don't have to show that there were other instances that they should have been aware of. You don't have to prove that much. And that law changed. I believe it changed after there was an attack in San Francisco, but I could be wrong on that. But the law shifted to strict liability not all that long ago. Indeed, pit bull owners, and especially an owner as sophisticated as Mr. Millan, should take special care with their dogs. Pit bulls make up 6% of the dog population, responsible for 68% of dog attacks and 52% of dog-related deaths. I don't know where they're getting that statistic from. They say it's from something called The Problem with Pit Bulls. Look, we don't have to agree. It's allegations. Start controversy. The mods are going to be like, things are going off the rails over the pit bulls. I know. Look, I'm not judging anybody's pit bull. I have friends who have had very lovely pit bulls. I don't know where they're getting their statistics. They allege that one person is killed by a pit bull every 2 weeks, and 2 people are injured by a pit bull every day, and young children are especially at risk. They say that's coming from mortality, mauling, and maiming by vicious dogs. Look, that's a 2011 study. Again, this is what they're saying. These are allegations. Allegations and shade are what lawsuits are made of. We're moving on. After Mr. Millan and his organization Caesar's Way knew that Junior had a history and propensity for violence, they regularly allowed him to roam around unrestricted. In August 2017, Junior attacked Lydia, the plaintiff in this case, who was a minor at the time. Junior bit her leg, causing deep puncture wounds and lacerations. She was taken to the ER the same day. She was a star gymnast, was a level 10, which is the highest level in USA Gymnastics Junior Olympics program, which is a lot. And gymnastics is not a halvesies in sport. Gymnastics is like a whole ass lifestyle at that level and at that age. And that, I believe she was 15-ish at the time when this happened. It's my understanding that that's kind of the age for gymnasts when they are at some of their some of their peak when they're starting to look at colleges or Olympics. So, I recognize my own bias as a athlete who was injured in college, that injuries that take you out of your sport can be devastating on a person's psyche, but that's just from personal experience. Gosh, Emily's just like picking all the topics to trigger her today. Way to go, Emily. Woohoo. Junior bit plaintiff's leg, causing deep puncture wounds and lacerations. She was taken to the ER. She was being actively recruited by universities, including Penn, an Ivy League institution, or University of Pennsylvania, an Ivy League institution. After the attack, she has not been the same. She had to quit gymnastics due to extreme pain and suffering and limitations she continues to have. I can't imagine being taken out of a sport like that. It's different, I think, when you get injured in your sport, because that's always a risk. But when something external happens, I can't imagine the emotional devastation, because that's your whole life leading up to it. And I've lived that for sure. Look, we have emotional support Pawnard, who has come in and just wants to look at the squirrels running around outside. We have a bird feeder outside the window, and the birds shake the bird feeder, and then like seed falls down and then the squirrels eat it. So there's just wilderness happening out there all the time. As a result, plaintiff brings the following causes of action against defendants for the substantial injuries she sustained: strict liability, assault, battery, negligence, negligent hiring, and all the other causes of action. Plaintiff Lydia Matisse is a 19-year-old college student born on July 6, 2001. This happened in August of 2017. So 16 years old. The dog bite giving rise to this lawsuit occurred while she was a minor. That's important just for statute of limitation purposes, is look, she can bring this suit after she becomes an adult and decides to sue, even though this was, 4 years ago. Defendant Cesar Millan owns the pit bull, owns the dog psychology center in Santa Clarita, CEO of Caesar's Way, et cetera, et cetera. Jurisdiction and venue, they brought it in California. Everybody's in California. This is in Superior Court of California. Like, hey, we're all in California. This is in California. Jurisdiction's not going to be a thing. They talk about Junior biting her. Her mother worked for Cesar Millan. On August 14th, she went to her mom's office. My kids used to come to my office. I loved it. They knew when my kids would come to the DA's office, depending on which location, they knew who had candy in all of their offices and would run around and say hi to all my coworkers, and see who was in their office. And it was always interesting having kids running around the DA's office. They cut conversation. You're like, oh, kids, change the words. They talk about defendants owning the building that they were in, that Junior was in the building, roaming free. Defendants knew that allowing Junior to be unsupervised, unleashed, or uncontrolled around others posed a substantial likelihood of danger to all persons at the building, including plaintiff. Defendants further knew that Junior had a propensity for and history of severe attacks, so there was a likelihood that Junior would very seriously harm plaintiff. Defendants further knew, they allege, that people in the building would be highly vulnerable to harm, and unable to protect against risk of harm because Junior was a powerful, they say, and very dangerous pit bull. Defendants knew that they had the opportunity and responsibility to restrain Junior and supervise him at all times. Junior attacked plaintiff and bit her repeatedly on the legs, including her left calf. She suffered extensive wounds on her left leg, bites, lacerations, injuries, and went to the ER for treatment. Strict liability means if it happened, you can be responsible. If you owned the dog and the dog bit the person, you can be responsible. It is strict liability. You don't have to prove negligence. You don't have to prove more. I feel bad for this mom. I feel bad for this kid. Like, I really just do. So I feel terrible for them being involved in this. On or about August 17th, while plaintiff was at the building, she was attacked by the dog. Direct and proximate result by defendant's actions, letting the dog wander around unleashed. Second is assault and battery. Again, the person owns the dog. The dog assaulted the plaintiff. Therefore, the owner is responsible, is what they're alleging there. Negligence. You should have known. You didn't know. You allowed this to happen. You suck. Negligent hiring, training, and supervision. Defendants owed a duty to the public and plaintiff to hire, retain, and supervise their employees. I don't know which employee was allowing the dog to walk around, unleashed or whatever, and how that will go. It might have been Millan themselves. Who knows? But we'll see. So they alleged that as well. Because you are bringing, you are able to bring these other damages, medical expenses, lost earnings, and diminution, lessening of earning capacity, past and future household services for needing help, incidental expenses, non-economic damages, including a traditional kind of pain and suffering that would be alleged there. Premises liability, you own the building, it happened, or you are responsible for the building, it happened at the building, therefore you have some liability because you had to keep people safe when they were at your building. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. Because of your action, this thing happened to me and it caused substantial distress. I would imagine that that would cause substantial distress. This seems like the type of case that could have been resolved at arbitration, didn't need to go to litigation. It seems that there are no factual disputes here either, and this just needs to be resolved. I don't know why this is in court. We will look at the answer in just a second because, of course, there are denials and general denials to everything. They are asking for compensatory damages, proof at trial, general and special damages, including damages for emotional and mental distress and interest, attorney's fees. Punitive are the punishment damages, civil penalties, and statutory damages, meaning under different causes of action, there can be different specific penalties. Costs of the suit, lawyer's fees, filing fees, that kind of thing. Pre and post-judgment interest, which is up here too on the special damages, and further such relief. And that's what that is. It is not really. Queen Latifah is used as an example. It's alleged in the body of this suit that her dog was killed by Cesar Millan's dog. It's alleged in the media that was covered up. That I didn't see in this heart of this lawsuit. We're going to look at the answer real quick, and then we're going to move on to the Queen's Gambit. This answer is like any other form answer. The interesting part of this answer to me is that they allude to related cross actions, and they didn't bring any cross actions yet. I don't know what cross actions will be brought. I also saw the question in here by Lee Heathers. Can the judge force the dog to be put down? The dog has since passed based on media reports. So the dog, it seems, passed from old age. But yes, sometimes judges can do that. But that would not be what happens in this case. This is over monetary damages, medical expenses, and things like that. So that's what's going to happen in this one. And they just list their affirmative defenses. They don't even really answer other than a general denial. Defendants deny generally everything, like it wasn't me. And then they have all their affirmative defenses. My husband's talking to somebody, I have no idea who. Cause of action is barred, for they don't name the affirmative defenses, which is really annoying. Because the alleged damage was caused by plaintiff's failure to exercise ordinary care, the percent of damages should be limited. The plaintiff assumed the risk, those kinds of things. So these affirmative defenses are all the shifting. Like, even if this did happen, you don't recover because you could have prevented the losses that you suffered. But it would be so helpful if they just name them, fifth affirmative defense, and then name the defense. They didn't. Let's see what else. Proximate cause. Plaintiff was particularly susceptible. That's not going to fly. Omissions or negligence on behalf of plaintiff. Damages sustained by plaintiff were unavoidable accident, so it's not based on negligence. Defendant had no duty to warn of dangerous condition. Defendants sufficiently warned if they did have a duty to warn. No human intervention was natural cause. I don't know if that's going to fly in a dog bite case because it's not going to be considered natural cause. It's not like, somebody getting hit by, I don't know, a rock falling or something like that. So they go through all their different affirmative defenses. 21 of them. When I looked at this the first time, I didn't notice that they had not named them each. And I was like, ugh, that's not helpful. This is against the prejudgment interest, complaints barred by statute of limitations, premises liability, didn't have control of the premises, the portion of the premises where plaintiff was injured. So these are all just standard denials and standard affirmative defenses, nothing of note and nothing really all that interesting. Truly, it's just, hey, this is what happened. Great. These are our defenses. You have to answer with your defenses to reserve them. If you don't raise a defense in the answer, you don't get to raise it later, which is why they kind of throw the kitchen sink in there, because it's like, these are all the possible defenses we could raise. It doesn't mean they're necessarily applicable or will be well taken or will fly, but they have to reserve it. So I imagine that this will settle out of court. It hasn't yet. Now that they've gotten past the motion to dismiss and there are future times sent, I would just imagine that this will get resolved. And yeah, I can't imagine that it wouldn't, but we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. I'll peek back in. I'm sure the media will report if it does get resolved. All right, let's get on to the Queen's Gambit, because I'm really interested to hear what you guys think about this. If you watched the Queen's Gambit, I have no idea what emoji to use for it. Somebody pick an emoji. If you watch the Queen's Gambit and put it in the chat, what are the mods? Tell us what emoji we're using. Dr. Riley, what emoji are we using? Put it in the chat and let us know. We're going to move on to that right now. So let's just go. I'm very interested to see who watched the Queen's Gambit. The Queen's Gambit. Netflix is being sued by a chess grandmaster for defamation over the Queen's Gambit, which literally on Sunday won, what was it, 11 different Emmys? I should look. I didn't watch the Emmys. Dr. Riley picked Crown. Of course it should be a crown. Of course it should be a crown. Picking the obvious answers. Thank you all for being an amazing chat. Love seeing that. I should have Googled. I think they won 11. We're pulling it up. Let's see. What does CNET say? The Queen's Gambit won. The Queen's Gambit won 2 awards overall. Oh, they were nominated for 11, taking home Best Limited Series. Turns out Sexy Chess is for everyone. Sexy Chess is for everyone. Let's just be clear on that. Sexy Chess is for everyone. So the nominated for 11 Emmys, according to CNET, won 2 Emmys. Yay. Ted Lasso apparently won more. Ted Lasso is great. All right, let's move. Lawsuit, Emily. Focus. Let's not talk about the Emmys. I didn't watch the Emmys. Otherwise, I would have known. You can guess that I didn't watch the Emmys. So if you have not watched The Queen's Gambit, which I thought was tremendously well done. I love the juxtaposition of like brilliance and the dark side of addiction and all of it. I thought it was great. I'm not significantly into chess. Both my kids learn to play. They like it. I lose focus easily. Chess is not for my ADHD brain at all. It is not my kind of game. Archery, I quite like. So chess, not so much. The Queen's Gambit is a Netflix limited series that was, I thought, fantastic, about a fictional chess prodigy who dealt with both a difficult upbringing, being an orphan, learning to play chess in a basement, to going on to beat some of the world's grand masters in Russia. And, you know, don't we always love a Russia-USA face-off set in the 60s? I mean, the movie Miracle, everybody's so happy when the USA beats Russia. Like, you know, always Russia being the proverbial bad guy. But it was a really touching story. It had some great chess playing. There were professionals who consulted on it, which we will see in the course of this lawsuit, and just an interesting story. But there is a female grandmaster, the first female grandmaster, Nona Gaprindashvili, I think. Russian names are not easy for me. Well, any name's not easy for me. Let's not limit it, Emily. You suck at pronouncing last names, girl. But she is the first female grand champion. She is from Georgia, the country. So there is tension between Georgia and Russia, as there have been and has been, and they talk about in this lawsuit too. But they allege that some of the inspiration for this U.S. chess phenom in this fictionalized story was based on her life work and accomplishment, and she is now suing Netflix for false light, invasion of privacy, and defamation per se in the Central District Court of California. I will be very interested to see what you guys think of this, and I will go and put a poll up in. Oh, I'll put the poll up now. Don't vote yet. Listen, listen first, and then vote. But I want to put the poll up so I don't forget. I'm going to ask if you see the defamation in this case or not. So we'll get into it, and then you can answer as we continue streaming. Oh, and I forgot to say, do the YouTube things. It's over 3,000 of you in here. Love you the most. Thank you. Go ahead and do the likey, subscribey things. And it helps with the algorithm and all the YouTubey stuff. All right, let's keep going. We have interesting things to talk about, not the YouTubey things. This is an action for false light, invasion of privacy, and defamation per se. Defamation per se being the what you said is so bad that we assume that it's defamatory because what you said is so bad. Like a reasonable person would be shocked and appalled. It would shock the conscience. It's like all the things. So that is what is being alleged here. You don't have to show the same standards of injury that you would show in a regular defamation, not defamation per se. Nona, and I'm calling her, look, Nona's in her 80s. She is like the fairy godmother of chess. She's a badass. We're going to talk about her being a badass. I'm calling her Nona. Nona G is a entrepreneurial or a enterprising badass. Yep. Ceiling breaking badass. And she is pissed that she is being misrepresented by this show. She is a pioneer of women's chess and a much-loved icon in her native country of Georgia. Throughout her extraordinary career, she won many championships, beat some of the best male chess players in the world, and was the first woman in history to achieve the status of international chess grandmaster among men. Nona, break those chess glass ceilings, girl. It's like brains are brains. It doesn't matter what parts are on the body. In 1983, author Walter I always want to say Tervis, like the cups, Tevis, wrote a novel entitled The Queen's Gambit, which tells the story of a fictional American woman named Elizabeth Harmon, also known as Beth, set in the 1960s. Harmon is an orphan who rises from humble beginnings to become a great chess player despite prejudice against female players. The novel's final chapter is set at a prestigious chess tournament in Moscow called the Moscow International, where she dramatically, oh, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen The Queen's Gambit, she wins. Sorry, y'all. Spoiler alert. She dramatically defeats, I should have not said that was spoiler. I should have, spoiler alert, leave now. Either way, she dramatically defeats several top male players, including a Russian who was the world champion. The main characters are fictional, but the novel references a few real chess players, including Nona G, who is described in the context of the Moscow Invitational as having met all these Russian grandmasters many times before. So in the novel, that is the line. Met all these grandmasters many times before. That was the worst spoiler alert ever. I see you in the chat. Apologies. Look, it's over a year old, okay? We did a court of public opinion on when a spoiler is not a spoiler anymore. Although Nona G is mentioned in the novel only in passing, Harmon's character plainly draws on her achievements. Harmon is in many respects an Americanized and fictionalized version of the real-life female Georgian prodigy who first took to break gender barriers in international chess in the 1960s by competing with and defeating top male players. The series is based on the novel. This is the line from the last bit of the movie. Oh, should we watch the clip? There's a clip. Let's watch the clip. Let's watch the clip. Please be hyperlinked. For the purposes of commentary. Okay, hold on. Oh, no, I have to open this in a new. We're going to just watch the clip. Y'all are going to tell me what you think. If it's defamatory or not defamatory. All right, let's stop sharing. We're going to share it. We need to share it with the sound because it's not helpful if you don't have the sound. But I love that they included a clip. I feel like we get to play along. This is what we love the most about cases like this, where we can see it, listen to it, experience it ourselves. So let's make this big, full screen. Back up. Hopefully you all can hear. Let me know if you can't.
Elizabeth Harmon's not at all an important player by this.
Really? With the internet? Boo. YouTube is going to do me dirty. Don't worry. I will read to you what this says. I will read to you what this says in a moment once this stops spinning. YouTube.
Elizabeth Harmon's not at all an important player by their standards.
We're just going to get blocked. We're just getting chest blocked by YouTube because this will not play. All right, let me read it to you what is said while that keeps spinning. It says Harmon's level of play wasn't at theirs. Someone like Lev probably didn't spend a lot of time preparing for their match. Elizabeth Harmon's not at all an important player by their standards. The only unusual thing about her really is her sex. And even that's not unique in Russia. There's Nona Gaprindashvili, but she's the female world champion and has never faced men. My guess is Lev was expecting an easy win and not at all the 27-move thrashing Beth Harmon just gave him. Emphasis added. Let me close a few tabs and see if I can get this to like recover itself. No, just nope, we're not going to get to watch it. Well, that's the line.
Elizabeth Harmon's not at all an important player by their standards.
Even YouTube doesn't think it's defamatory at this point. Let's see if we skip ahead if it'll work. It's literally 15 seconds of video. Yeah, YouTube's like checkmate. For sure, checkmate. So
really is her sex. And even that's not unique in Russia.
We're almost there. Why? Why, YouTube? Why? It's literally the next line. I took screenshots of it when I was watching. It's legitimately the next line. And it's just not good.
Nona Gaprindashvili. She's the female world champion and has...
And that's her sitting right there, or they're alleging that that's her sitting right there. And they say, and she has never played men. That being the alleged defamation, that she has never played men. So I read it. I'll just read it again. The only unusual thing about her referencing Harmon, let me reshare this. We have floof, just floofing over here. Let's reshare this. So this is the line from the clip that it wouldn't let us see, but I'll just put the link in the description because why? Let me be great. And you guys can watch it yourself. It's literally 15 seconds. The only thing unusual about her being Harmon really is her sex, and even that's not unique in Russia. There's Nona G, but she's the female world champion and has never faced men. They go on to say that this statement is sexist and belittling. The allegation that she has never faced men is manifestly false, as well as being grossly sexist and belittling. By 1968, the year in which this episode is set, she had competed against at least 59 male chess players, 28 of them simultaneously in one game. Yeah, that happened, including at least 10 grandmasters of the time, including a lot of Russian players listed here. The last three were also world champions during their career. So Nona played the dudes and won. She feels disparaged by the implication that she had not played and beaten men. The book said met all these Russian grandmasters many times before. Netflix was aware of it because the novel was adapted. And so they are not pleased. And I can understand. It does diminish her reputation to say, they say her name, not a fictionalized version of her name, but they say her name and say, but she has never faced males. And she's like, no. They go on to allege, and we'll get to that right now. They go on to allege that this was to heighten the drama of the show. Netflix brazenly and deliberately lied about Nona G's achievements for the cheap and cynical purpose of heightening the drama by making it a fear that its fictional hero had managed to do what no other woman, including Nona G, had done. Thus, in a story that was supposed to inspire women by showing a young woman competing with men at the highest levels of world chess, Netflix humiliated the one real woman trailblazer who actually faced and defeated men on the world stage in the same era. Nona went through in this allegation and said, look, my reputation is that I beat men, and this diminishes my reputation in my profession because it is referring to me by name and saying that I had never beat men. So they go on to say, piling on additional insult to injury, Netflix described Nona G as Russian, despite knowing that she was Georgian and that Georgians had suffered under Russian domination when part of the Soviet Union and had been bullied and invaded by Russia thereafter. So it's not just insulting her reputation, it's also insulting her homeland. Netflix had no need to use her name and to disparage her achievements for dramatic purposes. It could have used a fictional character instead. They deliberately eschewed these non-defamatory alternatives because it believed, it being Netflix, that the lie made for a more dramatic story. That's a lot of assumption, but okay. So you guys are still going on with the poll. I appreciate you. I'll close it after I finish going through this lawsuit real quick. The lawsuit is simple in its factual and legal predicates. Netflix lied about Nona G in a profound and obvious manner, impugning her professional standing by falsely stating she had not competed against men and thereby insinuating she lacked the skill necessary. They talk about the jurisdiction. They sued Netflix where it is. They go through in the resume part of the lawsuit saying, look, this is her resume. This is her legacy. This is what she's done. These are the medals she's received. These are her achievements and accomplishments. By 20, she became the female world champion. She did not relinquish her crown until 1978. So she was the reigning world champion from 1961 to 1978 when she was defeated by her fellow countrywoman, 17-year-old Maya C, who had grown up and was inspired by Nona G. We've got that Nona G is an OG badass. Nona G talked about the severe prejudice she encountered and said in a recent interview, at first, they all wanted to play with me to the end. They didn't agree to draws. The games were postponed according to the then regulations. They had to finish the game the next morning. Even a draw against a woman infringed on the pride of rivals, so they fought with me to the last. I myself have always played all games to the end, even if the first place in the tournament is already guaranteed. Over time, of course, they began to treat me differently. They accepted me, one might say, into their company. And that's a 2020 article in World Today News. They talk about the book that she wrote and go on with her resume, her achievements, which by no doubt are tremendous and inspirational. But is it defamatory is the question. They talk about her style of play. They talk about her role within politics in Georgia and why it continues to add insult to injury that she was portrayed as Russian and portrayed as never playing men. Now at age 80, she still competes in senior class tournaments and is the world champion among seniors over the age of 65. It talks about other awards that she has received. Then it talks about the dominance of Netflix, the Queen's Gambit miniseries, how many people saw it, that it has been nominated for 18 awards at the Emmys. Oh, not 11, 18. Well, it won 2 of them. They talk about the series that we've already covered a bit, and those of you who have seen it have seen it. This is a screenshot of the scene that they talk about in the opening. There's a lot of repetition. This lawsuit could have been written by me. It repeats itself over and over, which is not unlike me. She says that she repeats herself. This was mentioned in literally 15 seconds in the final episode of a 7-part miniseries. They talk about the falsity again that they alluded to in the introduction that, Netflix portrayed her as never playing a man. News organizations reported on and called out Netflix for the false statements. The chess world was apparently pissed about this. They were not having it. Falseness of the chess queen's legacy. The series Queen's Move lied about the Soviet champion. She supposedly didn't play with men. World Today News from November 2020. It goes on to talk about other news articles and the Twitter storm that happened where people were pissed that she was misrepresented. And that might be the case, but it does not mean that it is defamatory. So they go on and screenshot a number of different tweets about the case and about the people who were upset about the inaccuracies, including Pumbaa. Pumbaa was pissed. Look, Warthog Pumbaa is not who you want to piss off, man. Warthog Pumbaa is going to bring a mouse after you. I'm not making fun of the lawsuit. I am making fun of this Twitter name. Pumbaa, Twitter at Warthog Pumbaa, had a lot to say. Dear Netflix, I've heard about your new TV series, The Queen's Gambit, and I want to address on some misleading information in your show. Firstly, I'd be grateful if you would tell me why you are lying on Miss Nona G's career. Yeah, don't lie on her name. To be more specific, in the last episode of your series, you mentioned she had never played against male opponents, which is absolute nonsense. And on and on. So yeah, people were mad. Reddit was also mad. Don't piss off Reddit. Reddit knows everything. Reddit knows all the things. Then they go to actual malice because, again, she is a public figure. So when we're talking about defamation and defamation per se, you have to prove that it was malicious and not just an oversight. I don't know if they're going to prove that this was malicious because in the body of the lawsuit, and look, I'm all for Nona G not having her career misrepresented. I would be pissed if somebody talked about my not illustrious at all water polo career and said she only ever competed against women. I'm like, no, I got beat up for 4 years playing on a men's team. Do not diminish what that takes to be someone who is different in a difficult sport. And yes, chess is a difficult sport, just you don't punch people in the face even when you want to. So I understand the anger and frustration. I'm not diminishing that. Whether this is going to meet the legal definition of malice, the legal definition of defamation is a separate question from whether I am frustrated about Netflix's choice. These are two different things. My feelings are here, and what the law is over here, and we have to talk about the differences between the two. So they're going into actual malice. The false statements placing Nona G in a false light in the public eye and defaming her were made by Netflix with actual malice. Here was my point before I tangented about myself. The point is that in the body of the suit, it says that they did it for dramatic effect. So when you go to, Control F yourself on the wrong screen. I'm trying to get the word right. No, not dramatic effect. Theatrical effect. It's up at the beginning. Either way, we're going to scroll. They said it was done for theatrical effect, for suspense. So in the body of this own lawsuit, I think they argue that it wasn't malicious. I think they argue that it was done to heighten the drama. Netflix brazenly and deliberately lied on Nona G's career for the cheap and cynical purpose of heightening the drama. But that's not malicious. So I think in the body of the lawsuit, you don't have the malice. And then on a motion to dismiss, they're going to be like, Netflix is going to be like, look, even on this pleading, if everything's true, if you assume that the cheap and cynical purpose of heightening the drama is true, that's not malice. That's another purpose. So getting around to prove that Netflix did this maliciously is going to be difficult, even though I don't like it either. Also, it seems avoidable. They could have talked about a fictionalized name. And they could have, either talked about a fictionalized character, or they could have just accurately said the line from the book, which is she has faced these chess masters before, but then it doesn't give you the storyline of the hero of the movie being the first for this accomplishment. So if you're going to make the hero of the story the first for an accomplishment that a real person had accomplished in a fictionalized setting, then just use another fictionalized character. Be like, this person is the Russian who is the women's world champion who has not played on this stage. Like, You know, you could easy. You could have left it out. You could have given her a credit at the end saying, the first women's world grandmaster is Nona G and you're an OG and we salute you. Easy. You wouldn't have pissed off the OG of chess and the chess community, who seem like a very cerebral bunch who's probably not happy by this. It's like, look, if you're going to come into our world and make a mini series about it, at least get the shit right. They say that because media defendants never openly confessed to publishing or broadcasting with malice, proof of malice may plausibly be inferred from indirect and circumstantial evidence considered in its totality. And then they go through the Supreme Court case a little bit in Herbert versus Lando. No, not Lando Calrissian. He doesn't defame anyone. He just lies about things. Lando's a little bit of a snitch, but he dresses very well. As a general rule, any competent evidence, either direct or circumstantial, can be resorted to, and all relevant circumstances surrounding the transaction may be shown. And they talk about the fact that there are, the novel points out that Nona G beat men, and B, there were experts that were helping with the adaptation, and the experts would have known her career too. And though Netflix overlooking the text is what they're leading on to show malice, I don't think that's going to fly. They highlight there was Nona G, not up to the level of this tournament, but a player who met all these Russian grandmasters many times before. They could have said that in the movie, but would they have found that more disparaging? Not up to the level of this tournament. Is that more disparaging? I don't know. They also say that Netflix deliberately altered the passage in episode 7, but they didn't do the book line for line. It's an adaptation saying there's Nona G, but she's the female world champion and has never faced men, versus this is the passage that they're saying that is derived from. Not up to the level of this tournament, but a player who had met all these Russian grandmasters many times before. I think a court or a jury looking at this could look at these excerpts and say, look, the book said not up to the level of this tournament. And they insinuated that by saying she'd never faced men before, insinuating she's not up to the level of this tournament. And I think that's what their argument will be. Again, it'll be interesting to see if that's the interpretation given, because the book says not up to the level of this tournament, and that's what they're implying, and that's what they're taking issue with. They're taking issue with the implication that she wasn't up to the level of playing men, but the book says that too. So, I mean, I think if anything, this lawsuit, and we've talked about lawsuits being PR, I think if anything, this lawsuit will probably not go very far. I think it could get dismissed on its face, because I think they've pointed out that this was used as a theatrical measure, that the implication from the book passage, when you just give it a plain reading, not at the level of this tournament, is what's implied. They're finding that implication sexist and defamatory, but they're also saying the book got it right and the book's implying it. So I think what this lawsuit might accomplish is a lot of us going, oh, okay, well, now we know who Nona G is. You're an OG, you're a badass, we salute you. I don't know if this is defamatory and lying on your name. I just don't know if it's going to reach that level. They say the alteration is highly probative of actual malice. I just don't agree with that, because I think the underlying implication is the same. I don't like it, but I think the underlying implication from the book saying not up to the level of this tournament, and them changing that to say she's never faced men, indicating she's not up to the level of the tournament, is the same. I'm sorry. I think it's the same. I don't think it's highly probative of actual malice. I don't. But wait, there's more. Netflix hired 2 famous chess experts, and they would have known her reputation, and they didn't step in to correct the record. A jury could plausibly and reasonably infer actual malice from the stubborn and arrogant refusal of Netflix to correct the record, offer an apology, offer a retraction, or redub the voiceover in the pivotal scene once confronted with its egregious falsehood. They go on to say, by advancing the fairy tale that only an American woman was on the same level as male Russian chess masters, Netflix enhanced the dramatic impact of its story. And that's why there's no malice. That's within the pleading. That's why the court can find that there's no malice. They advanced a fairy tale to enhance the dramatic impact of the story. I don't think they're going to find that being malicious. I just don't. I don't disagree that it sucks. I'd be mad too. I totally get it. I just don't think it's going to reach the status of malice in the context of what it is. The first claim for relief is false light invasion of privacy, which is in California, a publication or broadcast that makes a false statement of fact that places the plaintiff in a false light in the public eye, a demonstration by clear and convincing evidence that the statement was published with actual malice, ding, 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 and a demonstration that the publication or broadcast of the falsehood would be deemed highly offensive to a reasonable person. A lot of us might find this offensive. Let me know with a 1 in the chat or no, crowns. We're using crowns in the chat if you find it highly offensive. But I don't think they're going to get past the malice standard. For false light invasion of privacy in California, you don't need to prove damages. But I don't think we're going to get past the malice bit. I think we've got the publication of a falsehood, and we might have highly offensive to a reasonable person. I think a lot of people would be like, this is my fucking legacy. Are you kidding me? Come on. You're Netflix. Most people have never followed chess, haven't heard of chess. This is the first time they're aware of my legacy, and you are misrepresenting the first female grandmaster in this sport, and that sucks. What I don't think they're going to get past is the malice. So I think we've got false and highly offensive. I'm offended. I mean, if you get a jury of mostly women, they're all going to be offended. I think you get some men who are offended too. I don't mean to break this down on gender lines, but I'm offended by it. I get it. I just don't think they're going to find malice, because even on the body of the complaint, it says they're doing it for dramatic effect. And doing it for dramatic effect is not malicious. It's because it's a fictionalized story in a television show. But imagine it in a different context where it's not your life. Imagine it where they use someone's real name. I mean, I don't know if they had disclaimers in this, like any representations of persons are fictionalized or whatever, but imagine they used somebody's real name in an episode of like SVU, and that person was the defendant who did all kinds of horrendous things. I can understand somebody saying, look, there's this episode of SVU, Law and Order, Special Victims Unit, and you've said I'm this and this and this and this and this, and you've used my very specific name and other general very specific facts about me and said these things about me on this TV show, and now people think I'm this, this, and this. I can see why people would be mad, but I also don't know if you're going to find malice. So, all right. So getting into the next is defamation per se. Defamation per se, again, tries to get around defamation per se, doesn't require that damages part. They say that plaintiff doesn't seek double recovery. These are alternative theories. It's either this one or this one. In California, defamation per se includes a statement that has the natural tendency to impugn a plaintiff in her office, profession, trade, or business. For Nona G, her lifelong office, passion, profession, trade, or business is in the world of competitive chess, in which she remains an active leader, role model, and competitor. To degrade her by impugning that she did not face men or was inferior to men was manifestly defamatory. However, I think that the allegation in here from the book, even the passage from the book, kind of infers that she's inferior, and the passage from the book infers that she wasn't up to the level of the fictionalized tournament that they're talking about. Cutting to the heart of her standing in the world where she has made her profession, it is no answer that she is 80 years old any more than it would be an answer impugning the career of an 80-year-old doctor, lawyer, movie director, or actress. Nona G's current participation in the chess world and her ability to earn income remains tied to her historical success and accomplishments. The professional reputation and brand of Nona G is inexplicably bound up with her courageous efforts to face and defeat estimable male opponents when chess was overwhelmingly a man's world. In lying about her by saying the opposite, defendants caused her professional reputation and brand egregious harm. Defendant's false statements about her career has caused her great distress. I would be distressed too. So I still don't think they're going to find malice. Then they get into the statutory damages. Again, this is a federal suit, so you see that magical $75,000 number, no less than $5 million. I don't think we're going to get there. I think she would probably be happy if Netflix either changed the line or apologized. So that's where we're at. I don't think this is going to meet the malice standard. I don't like it either. I don't think Netflix should cut down a woman's career in trying to uplift women in the sport of chess by remaking Queen's Gambit. I also think that when they allege in this lawsuit that it's to heighten dramatic effect, that cuts against it being malicious towards her. It has a purpose within the context of the, the artwork or of the miniseries. I also think it's unfortunate, and I think Netflix should probably apologize to her and sort it out, because those who know her in her profession know of her accomplishments. In the world of non-chess players, most of us probably wouldn't have given it a thought or more until this lawsuit came up, which means the lawsuit might have served its purpose because it has brought awareness of her legacy and career, more so than we might have been. So, if I were Netflix, maybe redub the scene so it's the exact line in the book, because it's just a voiceover that we can't play because it's being mean, but just technology has feelings. I'm kidding. And spite, very malicious. YouTube's being malicious and not letting me play that. I feel personally attacked, but it's a voiceover in that one panning scene, and they could voice over it exactly the line from the book if they wanted to. But in the book, it says not up to the standard of this tournament. So is that any better? And I just don't think, that's any better. And I don't think that's much different. I think the two are too closely tied because the end effect is the same, that a court is not going to find malice as a matter of law. And this will probably get thrown out, but I will be following along with it. I'm very interested to see how this resolves. I think that it will probably resolve outside of court and we won't hear much more about it. It's time to get to questions, because I've got questions. You've got questions. We've all got questions. I haven't gotten to questions in a while. It's been a while. We've been so busy on this show. We haven't gotten to a lot of questions lately. Let's get to questions. Woo! Please ask your question with a question. Please don't all caps it. Nightbot will come after you and your children. I'm teasing. Nightbot is a bot with a lot of sass. I'm going to try to get to some of the super chats that I missed. Thank you all for supporting me in the channel. For those of you that are in here, over 3,000 of you, please go ahead and do the likey, subscribey things if you haven't. We hit 156,000 of you. I can't even believe it. I mean, we're going to keep on pushing towards the outside goal of 200K by the end of 2021. What do you think? Do you guys think we can do it? I mean, I kind of feel like we'll just keep talking about the things that we talk about because I'm not really interested in just clickbaiting shit. So we'll just keep talking about what we talk about and go from there and hope for the best. I am getting way deep into this trying to find, I need to end the poll. Ha! This is what happens when it's just me on Tuesday. Let's go end the poll and see how the results came out. You guys will see it at the bottom. I won't get to see it. I have to look at the chat to see it, but you'll see the poll go by in just a moment. Mods, if somebody would just highlight for me the poll when the answer flies by, because our chat is moving pretty quick. Oh, there it is. I see it. Do you see defamation here? 55% no, 44% yes, with over 1,000 votes. Thank you guys for participating in that. I'm going to have to go to the back end of my channel. Well, that wasn't fun. Chrome crashed. Sorry, y'all. I was trying to get to the super chats and Chrome completely crashed. We're back now. Sorry, y'all. What in the world? That was That was not fun at all. Well, at least it happened at the end of the stream. God. Professionals here, people. But you know what? If we're gonna have shit like that happen, I'd rather have it happen on a Tuesday than on a Friday Night Live. So we'll get to questions. Dragon Sky Monarch said to say someone here, I need to pull this up. I'm getting new glasses so I can actually see my screen better. To say someone doesn't have enough skill to do a thing is fair and fine. To say they couldn't do a thing because of sex, gender feels so wrong. I appreciate the distinction very much, Dragon Sky. And you know what? The court might see that too. And we'll see. I mean, I'll be interested to see what happens. My opinion on the thing's just my opinion. I absolutely think that the court could let this play out. I think that it will probably just resolve. And I think that the lawsuit has probably met its goals with bringing awareness. I think that's probably the number one thing in this, is to bring awareness. So that is probably the overwhelming goal in this. So, and again, with over 3,000 of you in here, don't forget to like and subscribe. I can't even go back and find the old super chats because I got yeeted. So rude. So I'm going to try to find them in the back of my channel, which is what I was going to do before. It hasn't been working well. Trust me, when YouTube and I get to chat later today, this will be one of the things we will get to chat about. Oh, good. But I can pull them up today so I can go read the ones that we missed. A bit weird, but a Real Housewife of Salt Lake City question. Is it illegal to run a cult? There are, I would have to think about that. There are, what causes of action federally are there? I haven't thought about cult charges in a while. I would have to absolutely think on it. But yes, in some ways, it depends on if you're using it to like money launder and things like that. There are definitely, what are the federal charges? I think most of the time they go after them using RICO and talk about the different RICO provisions, because a lot of them are doing it for monetary gain. And then if they deal with other crimes like, you know, drinking the Kool-Aid type of stuff, then you get that kind of stuff. But I don't think the action of a cult, when it's guised as a religious group, that activity is protected. It's the other stuff that they do. Tax evasion, money laundering, homicide, you know, it just depends. So like the action of having because Mary is who you're talking about in Real Housewife of Salt Lake City, has a church that is protected by religious exercise. Most things that people call cults also brand themselves as some kind of a religion, and that is protected. But if there are crimes that come out of it, then they get dealt with. Excuse me. Then they deal with the underlying crimes. Hopefully that made sense. Hopefully that made sense. If a client tells their lawyer straight up they murdered someone, is the lawyer still held to attorney-client privilege? Can the attorney bail? The attorney, if they choose to bail, still can't tell anybody because they are held to attorney-client privilege for what their client has disclosed. So yes, they can bail. Most defense attorneys don't bail on stuff like that because they're defense attorneys. So you can't just like call somebody up and be like, "You're my lawyer now. I did this." Don't do that. Don't do that. Kidnapping and crossing state lines bring the feds. Yes, Lee Heathers, that definitely happens. And when you get those, when you get into those types of things, you definitely get the underlying crimes. So same with gangs. I mean, in some places, gangs are illegal, like themselves. There are gang enhancements that go on top of other crimes, but they're generally punished for the crimes that they commit, you know, drug running and money laundering and assaults and homicide and sex trafficking and those kinds of things. Bart, off topic, favorite DMB songs, fellow fan here. Oh, such a personal question, Bart. We're getting deep into it. Beach Ball is one of my all-time favorite songs ever. I've seen it live once, and out of the almost 50 shows, that says a lot. There are some very rare songs I've seen live, Beach Ball being one of them. Live performance favorites, Every Day, Long Black Veil, which I haven't seen live in probably 10 years at least. Also love Watchtower live because I am a huge Stefan Lessard fan and I love the Fonz so much. Other favorite songs, Where Are You Going? Because it's my wedding song. I love so much of Dave's music. Drunken Soldier is probably my top Top 3, I think I've seen Drunken Soldier live once. I also haven't seen Halloween live in a while, but they're coming to Tennessee. We could use some Halloween, Dave. I wasn't at SPAC. Look, I wasn't at SPAC. I missed SPAC this year. SPAC looked amazing. What a great weekend. I will stop going on about DMB. I also have DMB beads. Oh, also, these are coming soon. We'll talk about these later. It's a fantastic song, Bart Bart. And for those of you who are like, what are you talking about? These are deep cut Dave Matthews songs. I'm not coming up here and being like, my favorite song is Crash. Like, that's not what we're getting from me. Beach Ball, all time favorite ever. And it's part of one of my tattoos. We did that. Okay, let me get to our past super chats because now I've gotten into them on the back end of our channel and I can't pull them up. Any precedent for movie embellishments? I'm sure that there is. Did I pull it up before this? No, I did not. Generally, fictionalized accounts are said as such, like the, names and faces may be familiar, but these are a fictionalized account of this, this, and that. So generally it's not going to fly, but they did use her real name in context of her real life, and that might play into this more. All right, let me get to Super Chats. Viper, we got yours at the beginning. Psycho and, well, I can't even read that. It is way too small. You know who you are. Psycho Delicito. I can't. Today, I'm struggling. Thank you for sharing your perspective and insight in this calm and tactful manner. You are welcome. I still can't pronounce things. I apologize. Uncivil Law. Do you remember the 21st night of September? Thank you for your super chat. Yes, I do. It is September 21st. And I will remember this evening, unless there is whiskey, and then, all bets are off. Kathy says, briefly, can you explain the role of defense attorneys? Yes, to protect the direct rights and interests of their client and make sure that the state does not overreach the bounds of the Constitution, and to protect the constitutional rights of the defendants. Our system is very much built on the nature of the constitutional rights of the defendant. This is very, very, very frustrating for victims' rights advocates, families who have had victims of crime, et cetera, et cetera. It can be very, very frustrating. So, our system is based on not being able to force people to incriminate themselves and having to have like verified evidence and not going on witch hunts and things. So, Ashley Vincent, check my messages. Tell me on which platform to check my messages and I will. Gadget Goddess says, greetings, Emily and hardworking mods. And of course, all of you, #LawNerds. Hope you are well. Gadget Goddess, good to see you. Sorry I didn't get to that earlier. Thank you, friend. I hope your stream went well yesterday. Appreciate it. Nadia says, don't know if it's defamation, but the insult upon insult, name, Homeland Sexism Lies, makes me mad for her. I don't know if she will legally win, but it makes me mad for her too. All right. Thank you, Ashley Vincent. I will absolutely check that in just 1 second. Mags said, thank you for the $5 super chat. DR, first time I've been able to sit down and chat during one of your lives. Love you and the Law Nerds. Thank you so much for your support. And yeah, my ability to speak today is just difficult. Thank you, Ashley Vincent. I appreciate that. I am looking for the chat and I don't know what I've missed. I'm looking. I've missed something. Going to the end. I don't know. Oh, apparently there was a spotting of Brian. I will look on Twitter real quick. We are almost at the end of our live stream, but I will take a look. See, it's hard to be like, but thank you. I will take a look real quick. I laugh every time I say back end too. Don't worry about it. George, I'm on an airplane over the Atlantic and watching this. Fantastic. Thank you. I'm going to be doing a giveaway of these first before they launch. So don't you worry. I like it. Brian Landry's was spotted on a camera in Florida. As I said, ongoing investigation. I am sure that will be tracking down. Question off topic. What do you think is the most likely outcome of the 929 hearing? There are so many motions on the table. Lissy, Lizzie Z is talking about the Britney Spears hearing. I am actually doing a podcast episode about that for next week, about all the different motions that are on the table. I worry that the judge will punt some of them. I haven't seen anything filed by Britney's attorney yet with regard to the motion to terminate the conservatorship. If there is a motion to terminate, I think it will get put over to have Britney speak. There is an appeal pending whether the court will be open or not. It is just a lot. I worry that we won't get a ton of decisions. I'm worried this judge moves very slowly. And I'm nervous for the 29th. I'm nervous about it. So that is what. Okay. So yeah, Britney's Instagram is back up. I have seen that. It is great. What else? Let me look at Twitter real quick because, breaking news is on Twitter. I'm going to look for the reporter that I mentioned earlier. I'm glad Britney's Instagram is back up. It looks like it was her choice to take it down and put it back up, but I'm still always suspicious about that. Like I'm always suspicious about that. So let me go take a look at the reporter who's been following this really closely and see if he has anything new. Oh, but all my tabs crashed. So okay, give me a second. Give me a second as I say to you, saying to myself. Comment, thank you for taking a stand against people using Gabby's tragic death as their personal entertainment. It makes me sad for her family. It makes me sad for her family too. And the public can be so tremendously helpful in so many ways, but there are lots and lots of stories that can be shared. And I think trying to bring that kind of focus to all different kinds of stories. I mean, there are plenty of missing people who don't get found, unfortunately, and their families are struggling too. It's got to be hard for them to see certain stories take flight and raise, to kind of national media attention, where you've got the FBI flying here and there when others are struggling for answers from local police forces who are understaffed. It is very, very frustrating. It's also hard for families who have been there. It's hard for families who have had loved ones go missing, and then be found deceased, loved ones go missing and be killed. It's very triggering every time these things are made into such massive media spectacles. I don't know why some things catch fire and some don't. I don't know if the van life was it, if it's because she's such a pretty young woman, if it's because it's relational, if it's because she was an influencer. I don't know why some things take flight and others don't, but it's hard to watch every single move, but then we all want to know too. So it is definitely difficult. Influences by Adina. I hope I pronounced that right. There's an R in there. I cannot see. Arianda? I hope I got that right. Love catching your live videos, The Law Queen. Thanks for doing what you do. Thank you. We are definitely struggling with reading and pronunciation and speaking today, but all good things. All right, let's see what Brian Enton's Twitter has to say. And I'm going to link his Twitter in the chat, and then I'll link it again down below. Let me see if I can just link his profile so you guys can follow him. I've found him to be bringing lots of coverage for those of you that want to watch. If you don't want to watch, it's fine. It is what it is. I definitely highly recommend against doom scrolling. He said 33 minutes ago, the police and the FBI are not doing media interviews. Good. But Northport PD did provide an interview they did with Commander Joe Fusel. He says they have multiple drones up. There is also a Florida Fish and Wildlife helicopter up. 75% of the area where they are searching is underwater. Northport, Florida says as of 1 p.m., nothing has been found in the reserve. No signs of Brian Laundrie. So I'm going with those reports coming in. Yes, there might be more coming in, but we'll see. That is his Twitter. That is one of the reporters I am following along with. I find that the information he passes along has been kind of vetted before it's passed, and I appreciate that. Love watching you flying London to Chicago and watched your live. Woohoo! I mean, London to Chicago is a fun flight, and hopefully you've got the cushy, comfy, fancy seats. So let's see. Question: how accurate is the court scene in Legally Blonde? Would Brooke really have been acquitted? No. Well, not in that moment. There would have been this is a great question. There would have been, so the court scene in Legally Blonde, for those of you that are walking into the middle of a conversation going, what? Elle Woods is cross-examining the stepdaughter of the woman who's on trial for murder, and she is doing kind of a very long cross-examination question. These are leading questions. They're allowed to be leading questions on cross-examination, and it's like, if you weren't getting a perm and you weren't in the shower, if you were getting a perm, so you weren't in the shower, then to make your story plausible, you would have had to have heard the gunshot and found Brooke with a gun in her hand to make your story plausible. And then the witness, stepdaughter goes, did she tell you she was my age? I thought it was you coming through the door. And she kind of admits on the stand that she shot her father by accident because she wanted to shoot the stepmother. And then the judge is like, bailiff, take the witness into custody. Miss Wyndham, you're free to go. No, none of that. No, there would have been interviews and hearings and motions. The trial would have adjourned. They probably would have mistrialed it and dismissed the jury. They would have had police interview and question the witness and get a full confession if that's what it is. There then would have been hearings to drop the charges, and that would have taken time. It would have not just been like, oh, you're on trial for murder and you're in custody. First of all, there's no way Brooke Wyndham, given the context of the story of Legally Blonde, would have actually been in custody. She would have paid bail and been out on bail. This is one of the things about the cash bail system that comes into controversy quite a lot, is that if you have the money, it doesn't matter how high bail is, you can still get out and go home. Or you can pay for ankle monitoring like Josh Duggar because you have the money to do so. Either way, she would have not been in custody, but then you wouldn't have gotten the lovely orange moment with Elle Woods going to the jail and bringing her a gift basket, which also would have never happened. You wouldn't have had the lawyers being like, on this jail log, it says her sister was. No, a lot of stuff wouldn't happen. There's a lot Legally Blonde gets right, and there's a lot that is taken at a liberty for dramatic effect, which is fun. As someone filing a lawsuit against the New York Times for defamation, the most challenging thing in my entrepreneurial career, videos like yours really help a non-lawyer understand their rights. Thank you very much. We still haven't gotten into your lawsuit with the New York Times yet, but I keep meaning to. It is on my list. I have it, and you've emailed me, and I appreciate that. So yes, it is hard. And going up against the New York Times for defamation is very, very difficult, though there are many trying. So I try to help it. Make sense. A lot. So yeah, I try to help it make sense. Either way, I have got to go, you guys. I have a meeting that I have got to get to. I appreciate all of you today. I'm sorry that I was rough. Some days are like that, and the brain doesn't work the same way as other days. It is just like, whoo. Molly, I have absolutely talked about it. Mally, I've talked about it a little bit. I covered the court's ruling a while back before his preliminary hearing. I have not covered it since. I don't know when it's set to come up for trial. Anyway, this week, what is coming up? Housekeeping. Now that there are, 2,500 of you here, don't forget to like and subscribe. I will be back Friday for Friday Night Live. There will be a new episode of The Emily Show audio version up tomorrow, video version up soon. What else? Next week, streaming will be a little bit different because I will be traveling. There will not be a Tuesday and a Friday Night Live. There will be a stream, hopefully some point on Wednesday. There's a very distractingly large wasp flying around outside my window. And I'm like, even though I'm inside, I'm like, why? Don't fly around out there. So we will definitely be covering stuff with regard to the Britney Spears hearing. I will also be covering that on social media, which is where I am most active when I am traveling, because it is the fastest way, at the Emily D. Baker on Instagram and Twitter. And if you want to be part of our Law Nerd community where we have kind of deeper discussions on some of this stuff, then absolutely join the Patreon. It is lawnerdsunite.com will get you there. It is a fun place to have a chat. I know those of you that are on Patreon have been enjoying it. There are over 1,000 law nerds on Patreon now to have those discussions and access to the Patreon-only podcast, I Have Thoughts. There will be new episodes incoming this week. I'm very excited about it. So thank you for that. I just saw Anna said Project Veritas has been successful. They are moving forward in their lawsuits against the New York Times. The New York Times didn't think they would get to discovery. They have gotten to discovery, which is for Project Veritas a good thing. Look, defamation on YouTube, defamation in the New York Times, defamation on screen can still be defamation. It can be hard to prove with public figures. That doesn't mean it's impossible. So, I have a feeling we're going to continue talking about defamation over and over and over again. All of you are going to be like, but where's malice? Do you have jurisdiction? The law nerds know some defamation when they say it. They're going to be like, I don't like what was said. I am offended by what was said. A reasonable person would be offended, but I still don't see malice. And that's the hard thing. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for being law nerds. I appreciate you. I know I've got like all of the law nerd cups today on my desk, and I'm so excited by them. I appreciate you guys. I will see you soon. Thank you for hanging with me today. Huge love and appreciation to the mods. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will talk to you soon. Connect with me everywhere. I'm at the Emily D. Baker. If you guys want to join the text, just text Emily.com. If you want to join the channel, lawnerdsunite.com. Happy to have you. Support what we do here on the YouTube.